All right. What do you think are the biggest enemies of creativity? Or from a slightly different angle, what are some of the ways you can sabotage your own creativity?
I visualize the enemy of creativity like a character that stands over in the corner like this. Hey, 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 look at me, look at me. Like just constantly like this.
That's the enemy of many things.
Distraction.
Yeah. But I was trying to imagine it as a character, and that's kind of what it looks like to me. And I follow it a lot. I follow that distraction all the time, rather than sit in my own thoughts and feelings and actually be creative.
Does yours wear a white suit and slowly eat lettuce?
No, black outfit with sequins.
And eating arugula.
Yeah, that's really good.
There's always some greens.
It's a healthier way to distract
Crunchily
people.
eating greens.
So yes, distraction is an easy way to say that. I think distraction is
Like too much input.
Yeah, I was going to say that was going to be my word, is that for me it's input versus output. That while you are inputting, your brain cannot be uniquely outputting.
I think that's true. However, I think that the source of it is before that. It's the desire to be distracted. It's like my attention span, like my short attention span that wants more. This surface level thing that wants more input. So tempering that with less input would be, befriending the ally to creativity, who wears silver sequins, if you were wondering.
The focus of this response has become
What outfit does?
Lacey's sleep
this
paralysis demon
personification
take
of
shape.
nightmare that is distraction.
Just a giant mackerel in the corner.
What about? I mean, distraction. So that's a fairly common answer, I would think. What else? What else are enemies to creativity?
Well, I think we've talked about this before as a group, and I think you mentioned once lack of boredom, which I think kind of a little bit goes hand in hand with distraction, but there's an art to like putting yourself in a position where boredom exists and your mind is free to wander. It's not just, like you said, it's not just a lack of inputs. It's not just go away from the screens,
Right.
but also go away from like stress and other thoughts and like the things that are filling your mind. And sometimes those can be fuel, but there's something to be said for like just sit
Intentional boredom.
and do nothing.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember once I always have some reference for something a writer has said, but Neil Gaiman has described, someone asked him once, like, what do you do about writer's block? And he said, I just get bored. He has this little room in his yard outside of his house. It is in like kind of naturey spot. And he goes and he sits in this room with nothing and just doesn't leave until he is bored and his mind slows down and he starts noticing sounds and the breeze and, look at that over there. And he just kind of like lets his mind purge whatever the heck it is doing till eventually he starts working on the problem and comes up with ideas, and like all of a sudden his mind goes crazy and he becomes this creative well, but he has to like force himself to get bored. Otherwise he's too busy thinking about other stuff.
And getting there is a total process. The amount of time that it takes to defuse and to dilute all of the input that has been coming into your brain so that you can get into that creative space can easily be interrupted. For me,
yeah.
a huge barrier to my creativity is just the number of adult things that need your doing and that need your attention throughout the day that, a lot of the times you cannot anticipate. All of a sudden, this moment, I need to stop doing what I'm doing and go do something completely different that puts my mind in a completely different space, even though I was thinking about what this wizard's doing in this cave.
And what color sequins was it wearing?
I think sort of what you're describing is a little bit of like setting mindful blocks of uninterrupted time.
Yeah.
And that I think that type of distraction, if you have the capacity in your life to arrange it, is an important thing to consider. Like, if you have, let's say, 3 or 4 hours of true, deeply potent creative potential in you every day, like, I know most writers, for example, talk about how when they sit down to write, like most professional writers write 2 to 4 hours a day and that's it. And the rest of the day is spent on going on walks or whatever, working on correspondence, editing, But actual writing, they only do like 2 hours of really solid productivity. And most of them will tell you that the first 30 or 40 minutes of that is them letting everything go and getting into a flow. And then it's just like an hour and a half of just like solid production. But then if right when that starts, someone, knocks on the door and comes in and they say, what should I do with this mail? Like, even if that's a 5-second interruption, they're like, that spool up is now reset.
Or like you have to hold your newborn baby for 10 minutes while something's happening,
and obviously like, I think it's easy to get lost in that and feel like, oh, if I can't have 4 uninterrupted hours of productivity, I'll never make my dreams come true. Like you can make stuff in the middle of a busy laundromat at peak time. Like
If you've got your notebook with you, anytime.
you can always do these things. But if you have the power to make set time where everyone knows, leave you the heck alone, do not talk to me for 3 hours, like that is a discipline that will help you put yourself in a creative space.
And you won't always have that. I think you're right. Sometimes you have to fight for the 5 minutes. I'm going to put a note down. The thing that came to my mind that I think can really sabotage creative work is the striving for excellence in a way that you want to compare your work to other people who are really good at
That's
it.
exactly. I was going to call it expectation. Expectation as an enemy of creativity. This idea of what your thing is supposed to be.
And not through your eyes, right? What I'm getting at is I want to be great like Neil Gaiman, right? Like I'm not going to be happy until I write like Neil Gaiman. Well, you will never write like Neil Gaiman.
Jeez.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not going to happen.
Well, and you have to write like you.
Right. And so I think, and I've been through this at multiple times in my life, and I think people can struggle with this forever. The thing that you are creating should be unique to you. It should have your imprint. It should have your fingerprints on it, and it has to be protected. And the moment you start to overcommit to what you think they want, you are not then being true to the thing that is driving your creative work. And that has been very detrimental. And it's been hard for me over the years because, having a creative agency and doing client work, you are doing it for them. Like you have to do it for them, but you're really doing it for their customer, right? And so you're doing a little bit of role play. When you're actually doing creative work, that you're bringing something into the world that's inside of you, and this is your amazing creative thing, you do have to shut the world out and the expectations out so that you can cultivate the thing that is truly proprietary to what you want to do. And I think that's the way that you're going to be the most proud of your work as well. And it's going to have the most significant impact because people will not be expecting it.
It's letting go of all your preconceived notions, not only about what's good, but what it's supposed to be or what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that made really good sense because you kind of expounded on the idea I wanted to bring, which was expectations, but it was really your own expectations of, the greatness that could be of what you're trying to create. But you brought in that other point about other people's expectations too. So, we have to have this creativity from a sense of what? No expectation.
Just that creativity is the goal, I think. That like any time that you are coming up with a unique thing that is progressing and adding more nuance to your own voice and your own style, and that just every unique thing that you create is progress on that track.
Yeah, and there's a pleaser mentality that can destroy the essence of your work. And then there is a level of excellence where you want to impress other people that will destroy your creative work. And I think staying true to your motivation of what you want to bring into the world and how you want people to feel when they engage with your work is the thing that you want to focus on. And quite honestly, sometimes it's just what you want to, like, and just share the thing that you've made and don't even look at it through their lens. I think it's good to do both, but
yeah, let anything be possible. We've talked about this in game design conversations before, where a trap that we see ourselves falling into and definitely see other designers falling into when they talk about game design as a principle is the notion that it's really easy and quick to set up these rules that you think exist and then operate inside them in a way that really hampers you from finding what you're truly capable of finding. So I'm making a worker placement game, and here are the rules of worker placement games established by the people who've made them before. Like, this is the way it's done. Now, how do I be creative and make my own worker placement games? Like, just let go of all the established stuff. Like, deal with that later. You know, put those on as lenses for when you're refining what you're making. Like, okay, you know, when I played this game, I felt like XYZ was really powerful and good. Does that change what it, you know, but do that later. Don't let everyone else define for you the parameters of what you're making and then operate inside of that.
Yeah, constructive discontent is really good. To look at what is and then to not be content with that. To add something to it or to add a perspective, I think, is what people are hoping for.
And I think that is the like root of creativity that people who do not consider themselves creative overlook in themselves, that judgmental eye to see something and have in your mind an idea of how you would have done it differently or how you would do it better, that is evidence of your own creativity and seeing worth and value that could be brought into the world that has not been, and that, you know, pursuing that is the goal.
That's a good point.
We are conduits for creativity. Don't clog it up with extra sensory information. Don't clog it up with other people's expectations. Just be a conduit.
Just don't clog it.
Don't clog
There's
conduit.
no creativity plumbers.
Don't stuff other people in your conduit.
Don't stuff other people in your... That's right. In my opinion, people aren't to be stuffed.
Jared, where should people be stuffed?
Lockers exclusively.